Rose, thank you so much for joining us today. For everyone watching, I'm interviewing Rose Hahn, who is a fantastic YouTuber and speaker on financial literacy. She has over 633,000 subscribers on YouTube, I think. And you can find her Investing with Rose on YouTube. So Rose, thanks so much for joining.
I'm really excited. Happy to be
So I want
here.
to ask you, what made you start doing this? What made you start a YouTube channel and speaking on financial literacy?
So when I started the YouTube channel, this was about 3 years ago in 2019, but I actually started offline initially, just doing little meetups in my community for free, like 5 to 10 people would start coming in the beginning, and then the meetup grew to several hundred members. And that came from really just a desire to share what I was learning. I really didn't see myself as an expert or anything because at the time I was like getting out of debt and just figuring out how to invest, like navigating all that stuff. And after many years of really just sticking my head in the sand about my finances, I started actually facing them and doing things about it. So, and that felt so empowering in addition to just learning a lot, like my eyes opened and I just wanted to share it. So I started doing these meetups and it was really scary for me, but I think like when you really have something that changed your life and you really want to share it, that'll help you get over any fears you have about speaking in front of people or whatever. And and yeah, I'm not like the type of person that loves to be in front of camera. I never thought I would be doing this, but the meetup started growing and I could see that it was really helping people and I wanted something that could scale and reach more people. And the idea of recording one video and potentially reaching millions of people forever with that one piece of content, that was extremely fascinating to me. So it was the logical next step. And so that's when I started my channel and haven't looked back since.
Amazing. Well, it's interesting. I led a study last year of next gen home buyers, and 74% said that they go to YouTube for their financial education. Like when they have a question about personal finances, they go to YouTube. And that was really surprising to me. But when I thought about where I go for more information, a lot of times it is looking at YouTube videos. And so it's really having, I think, a huge impact. And really, there's a huge gap in financial literacy in America and across the world. That's very clear, and you're taking a big step towards that. What do you think? You shared a little bit about the impact that getting educated about financial stuff was, how that was impacting you. But can you share a little bit more about your personal story or why you're so passionate about the topic?
Yeah, so I would say my financial journey, it started a long time ago. I was 13 years old. My dad, he happened to give me a copy of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's not that he was super financially savvy or anything, but something inspired him to give me this book. And it really opened my eyes. I mean, I highly recommend this book. It's basically about how the rich versus the poor, they think completely differently, and the difference is financial education. The way the rich approach money is completely different because they know things that the poor don't. And not that I grew up poor by any means. We had everything we needed. My parents were extremely well educated, but there were also some emotional like ups and downs because of financial problems that my family went through, like dad getting laid off, investments not going well. And although I never understood all the details, it was this gut knowing that wow, you really need to have financial education to have control over your life so that so that you don't have to suffer unnecessarily. Like I think if you work very hard and you're very well educated, you should be able to create the life that you want. And I could see that if you don't have the financial education, it doesn't matter if you have all the other things. So it really came from like just my experience growing up. And I'm the kind of person that likes to go all the way. So I was like, I'm gonna master this money thing. Like I'm gonna go study finance. I'm gonna work on Wall Street. I wanna like get on the inside. Um, so that's the path that I pursued, except that you could do all those right things. You can even work in finance and have a degree in finance, but that doesn't always translate to being good with your personal finances. So in my 20s, I like graduated with a bunch of student loans. I was spending everything I made, even though I made a good salary. And it just kind of it came to a head. I think I went on like that for a long time, not wanting to look at my finances and not really wanting to address the fact that I probably spent too much and I wasn't investing. But I sort of hit this rock bottom moment. It was sort of like this renaissance in my life. I went through a breakup. I wanted to quit my job. Like I just had a whole reset on my life. And that was my financial awakening because I realized, okay, if I to get to the other side, I need to face what I fear, which is my finances, which are a mess. And so I have to do this. And that's when I started reading books and actually like looking up my accounts and seeing how much I actually owed on my student loans and how to and just like coming up with a plan and taking action to improve my situation. And so that's really where it started. Just like I feel like finance is an area that people it causes a lot of stress, understandably. And the general approach to that is to avoid it. And but then that'll only make the problem get worse. And I just really wanted to make it easy and not scary for people to face what they know they have to face, but they're scared to face, because it's really not that scary. It's actually really empowering. So yeah, I think everything that I share really comes from the pain and the empowerment that I've experienced on my own journey.
Oh, I love that. That is, and it's so true how emotional we are with our finances. That's something I talk a lot about, that we don't make decisions about money based on logic. And I personally feel this way. Like growing up, I did have enough and all of that, but everything was very up and down. And I think that you always absorb your parents' stresses about money and all that kind of stuff growing up. And I have so much anxiety about when I open my bank account and I know there's plenty of money in there, or when I'm now taking steps towards, investing and doing different things, buying a home. But it takes so much effort. And once I do it, I'm like, oh, that was really easy. And I feel really empowered. And it's not that difficult. It's just but there is a lot of like anxiety wrapped up in finances. And I think making it more accessible and approachable for people is so crucial.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think along the way, I realized that it's not strategy and tactics that people are lacking, although that's important too. But it's really getting over the emotional side. I feel like finance, it can invoke a lot of feelings of shame, like, oh, I'm not where I should be, or my finances are a disaster, but other people are doing better. So, and those are not productive feelings at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. Just like you said, I'm worried about seeing how much money I'm spending on something, or yeah, feeling ashamed that I'm not at this place. And it doesn't matter. I've realized it doesn't matter how well I'm doing in my career or with money or whatever. I am always going to have a little bit of that feeling or that emotion around it. And so, nothing really changes that. We have to take ownership over that. And I think even about when I was buying a home a year ago, I had to overcome a lot of my just feelings around anxiety around making that purchase. And once I actually looked at the numbers and was like, broke it down to here's how much I invest in the stock market and how much I have put in the down payment and all that kind of stuff. Once I looked at all of that, it made total sense. And I felt super comfortable and confident in the decision. But without taking that moment of really getting that clarity, I just felt all the emotion, and so I think that keeps people from entering the housing market, for instance, or from investing or doing, taking ownership over these things. It's just they're stuck in the feelings instead of the looking at the logical numbers behind it. So it's really interesting. We did a couple of studies, like one a couple years ago, that showed there was with the next gen homebuyer segment, there was a huge gender gap, and men were significantly more likely than women to have grown up learning about financial education, and how to make a budget, that type of thing. And they also outperformed women significantly in investing. They were 3 times more likely than women to be investing in the stock market and even health savings accounts, like everything. And we controlled for whether the women had children and whether their socioeconomic status, even their parents' socioeconomic status. And the only thing that was statistically significant there was that childhood education. So I'm so passionate about what you're doing. And I think, bringing education there, because it does bridge the gap around a lot of inequality that we have that surrounds our finances. Any thoughts around that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so aware that there are lots of wealth gaps, investing gaps, salary gaps, wealth gaps. It's across like race, socioeconomic status, and of course gender. And there are like specific reasons for that, because if you're like an immigrant, daughter of immigrants like me, then your parents don't even really speak the language or understand the country. So let alone they're investing and building wealth in this country. So and then that tends to just pass on through generations. So there are very like real reasons why these gaps exist. But then it doesn't mean like there's no one that looks like me that's killing it financially. There are people like kind of outliers. They've done things to get out of that situation. And so I think it's really important to find like role models of people who are in a different financial reality than you're in, because it is possible. You have to, again, like education. There's books you can read, you can learn from the greats just by buying a book, and a book only costs $10. So I think if you just have the initiative to find the role models and to focus on those role models and to absorb that for yourself and think, if that woman can become rich and become financially free, then I can too. To just like really focus on that and then seek out the education, because it's not, you're not going to get the financial education in school, but it's there. Like it's on YouTube, it's in books.
So I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the common challenges that you address in your channel, or things that you hear from your subscribers that are common challenges they face around financial education.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think everyone has this in common, is that it's not given to them. Financial education isn't just handed, unless, you grew up in like sort of a privileged environment where your family was very good with money and they talked about it openly around the dinner table. But unless you're one of those people, you will mostly just start seeking out financial education after kind of experiencing pain and getting your ass handed to you, to be quite honest. And I think another common challenge is, I realize that if you just do what society wants you to do or what comes easily to you, you're going to go down a path where you're going to be working for the rest of your life. Like it's easy to scroll through Instagram and buy stuff because other people look like they're living the life. So you also book tickets to Miami for the weekend, even though you can't afford it, and feel this pressure to dress nice and spend money. Like it's easy to spend money because we all want to keep up with the Joneses, and marketing, especially with smartphones, like we're being marketed to 24/7. The easy thing is to just spend. You have to really know who you are, what your values are, and be very focused on the goal to say no to all those things, and 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 do what it takes to become financially free. So I think the challenge is just kind of going against the grain instead of like doing whatever, because if you do what everyone else does, you're going to have what everyone else has.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's the case across every definitely in finances, but every decision in life, you're set up for complacency or mediocrity, and you have to take ownership and step out against the grain to be able to make those decisions. And like you said, I mean, Instagram, the ads have gotten me so bad to the point that for a while, I just had to delete Instagram because I would get on my phone in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep. And I'd get packages showing up at my house, me being like, oh, who ordered this? Oh, it's me. I ordered this in the middle of the night and I do not need this. But yeah, the marketing is just really good. And obviously that's the case with every type of purchase that we buy or invest in or don't invest in, or the kind of budgeting that we do. So anyway, I absolutely love what you are doing. I'm so inspired by your work and you stepping out of your comfort zone to bring education, making that more accessible. So again, I want to encourage everyone to go to your channel. It's Investing with Rose, right? Okay, so check that out. And again, thank you so much, Rose, for joining and for sharing all of your thoughts.
It was fun. Thank
Great.
you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.